The lights flickered erratically, casting grotesque shadows that danced and twisted, mirroring the chaos roiling within me. Then, from the fractured glass of a shattered funhouse mirror, a figure emerged, impossibly distorted, its silhouette jagged and warped. The laughing clown stepped into view, its face a macabre canvas of exaggerated painted features, the grin impossibly wide, stretching beyond the limits of human expression, and its hollow eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. A cold shiver darted down my spine as the first notes of that manic laughter slithered through the air, sharp and persistent, slicing through the carnival's oppressive silence. It was a sound that clawed into my mind, unrelenting and mocking, a cruel reminder that my torment was far from over. I froze, heart hammering in my chest, breath hitching as the clown's laughter ebbed and surged like a living thing, wrapping around me, suffocating and inescapable. The carnival around me seemed to warp and pulse with the sound. Tents sagged with grotesque deformity, their canvas skin stretched tight like the taut nerves in my own body. The rides, once gleaming with childish promise, twisted into nightmare incarnate. The carousels, once bright horses, now bore snarling, fang-filled mouths, their eyes wild with madness. The carnival's melody, a warped and dissonant tune, filled the air with a sickly sweetness that made my stomach churn. I stumbled toward the carousel, seeking some anchor amid the madness. Beneath the rusted canopy, the faint glow of dying bulbs illuminated the clown's figure as it darted in and out of the shadows, its laughter erupting in sharp bursts. Each appearance was accompanied by a new taunt, whispered and shouted, each syllable a barbed accusation against my soul. It embodied every fear I had tried to bury, the betrayal I had inflicted, the promises broken, the faces I had turned away from in my darkest hours. "You can't run," it chortled, voice a grotesque blend of childlike glee and venomous spite. "You belong here, with the others lost, forgotten, damned." The words were both a curse and a truth I could no longer deny. I felt the walls close in, the carnival's twisted architecture mirroring the labyrinth of my own conscience. The laughter pierced deeper now, a relentless tide washing away the fragile defenses I had built. Memories surfaced unbidden, faces contorted in pain, whispered apologies that never reached their intended ears, the cold weight of my own failings pressing down like an iron shroud. Desperation clawed at me, a primal urge to flee from the madness that threatened to consume me whole. But the clown was always there, just beyond reach, a mocking spectre that shattered every fleeting hope of escape. It lunged forward suddenly, graceless and jerking, its grotesque grin widening into something monstrous. I stumbled back, heart pounding in frantic rhythm with the cursed laughter that echoed relentlessly around me. In that moment, I understood this torment was not merely punishment, it was a mirror, a reflection of the guilt that festered within. The laughing clown was the embodiment of my own self-loathing, twisted into a creature that would never rest until I faced the truth I had long denied. And so the carnival spun on, its nightmare clutching me tighter with every breath, every echoing laugh. The path ahead was unclear, shadowed in despair and fear. But I knew one thing with brutal certainty: the torment would only escalate, and I must find a way to endure or be consumed entirely. The cursed laughter followed me as I moved deeper into the carnival's heart, a cruel soundtrack to a journey I could not abandon. Somewhere beyond the madness, perhaps, lay a glimmer of hope, or the final reckoning that awaited all who dared to ride the Ferris wheel of their own sins. And as the night deepened, the clown's laughter grew louder still, a maddening chorus that promised no respite, only the endless echo of guilt manifest. The next rotation was coming, and with it, the next revelation, but whether I would survive the ride, I could not yet say. As I stepped closer, the glass fractured my reflection into countless shards, each shard revealing a fragmented moment of my broken past. Faces I had tried to forget stared back at me, twisted in expressions of betrayal and sorrow. A sharp pang of recognition stabbed my heart as a memory surfaced once again. The cruel truth of my failings clawed its way to the surface. The carnival around me seemed alive, breathing with a sinister pulse that grew stronger with every heartbeat. The cursed laughter, that unbearable, twisted mirth, floated on the air like a dark fog. It wrapped itself around me, a suffocating shroud that promised no respite. With a sudden chill, ghostly figures emerged from the shadows, the shadow children. They moved silently, their pale, featureless faces glowing faintly in the darkness. Their hollow eyes locked onto me, reflecting the forgotten sins I had long buried beneath layers of denial. I could feel their gaze piercing through my defenses, exposing the raw vulnerability I fought so hard to conceal. The laughter twisted into a sinister crescendo as the laughing clown appeared from nowhere, a grotesque specter of my deepest fears. His face was a nightmarish distortion of painted joy grinning, impossibly wide eyes, hollow and mocking. He circled me with unnerving agility, each step punctuated by a burst of manic laughter that echoed through the carnival's cursed air. His presence was a cruel reminder of my failures, an embodiment of the guilt I could no longer outrun. I tried to speak, to push back against the torment, but my voice was swallowed by the relentless cacophony of laughter. Around me, the carnival began to dissolve into a swirling mist, a maelstrom of memories and emotions blending into one another with dizzying speed. Shadows shifted and morphed into grotesque shapes, and the line between nightmare and reality blurred until I was no longer certain where one ended and the other began. Fractured visions assaulted my senses, whispered accusations from faces I had wronged, the bitter sting of betrayal, the cold weight of remorse. Each fragment seemed to claw deeper into my soul, unraveling the fragile threads of my sanity. In the midst of this chaos, a sudden, piercing silence fell, a momentary reprieve from the relentless torment. The carnival's twisted visage faded into the background, replaced by the stark clarity of my own reflection. I saw not just a haunted figure caught in an endless loop of guilt, but a broken person grappling with the unbearable weight of their past. The shards of memory were pieces of a puzzle I had no choice but to assemble, no matter how painful the process. I reached out trembling hands toward the mirror, desperate to grasp the fragments of my identity before they slipped away into the mist. The laughter began anew, softer now, but no less cruel. It whispered promises of punishment, of reckoning, and of the impossible task ahead, to confront the sins I had buried and to find a way through the carnival's nightmare. My breath caught as a distant voice echoed through the haze of faint, familiar warmth that hinted at a path beyond despair. It was Mira's voice, calm and enigmatic, a fragile beacon in the darkness. Her words offered no answers, only cryptic guidance that stirred a flicker of hope within me. The carnival's horrors still loomed, but perhaps, just perhaps, there was a way to face the fractured pieces of my past and seek the redemption I so desperately needed. But as the shadows lengthened and the cursed laughter swelled once more, I realized there was no turning back. The fragments of my broken past had shattered the illusion of escape. Now, trapped in this twisted realm, I would have to face the truth, no matter how harrowing, can confront the darkness within before the carnival claimed me entirely. And so, with a heart heavy with dread and remorse, I stepped deeper into the carnival's nightmarish embrace, ready to uncover the next fragment of my fractured soul. Flickering bulbs, strung haphazardly from the creaking rafters, cast fractured shadows that danced like restless phantoms. I stepped cautiously onto the sawdust-strewn floor. The familiar scent of burnt sugar mingling nauseatingly with the metallic temps of rust. The carnival's cacophony, the twisted melodies of a broken calliope. The distant echo of cursed laughter had momentarily been swallowed by an oppressive silence that draped over me like a funeral shroud. From the periphery, a figure emerged, tall, statuesque, yet somehow intangible. The ringleader. His presence was a dark pulse in the heart of the carnival, an embodiment of all that was unyielding and merciless. The twisted carnival mask he wore was a grotesque mosaic of cracked porcelain and tarnished brass, its expression frozen in a macabre grin that seemed both mocking and sorrowful. Beneath the mask, faint embers glowed where his eyes should have been embers that pierced through the darkness and found my soul, laying it bare. So, his voice slithered through the silence, a chilling blend of mockery and solemnity. "You have come at last." I swallowed hard, the taste of dust and dread thick in my mouth. "Who are you?" I forced the words out, though I knew the answer before the question even left my lips. "I am the Reckoning," he replied, stepping forward with a measured grace that belied the menace in his tone. "I am the shadow cast by every sin you have tried to bury, the laughter that haunts your nightmares, the weight that drags you beneath the surface." His words were a litany of condemnation, each syllable a hammer striking the fragile defenses of my mind. Memories I had long suppressed surged unbidden, the faces I betrayed, the promises I shattered, the moments I chose cowardice over courage. The carnival's cursed laughter fell silent, replaced by the heavy toll of judgment that filled the tent like thick smoke. I wanted to look away, to flee, but my eyes were fixed riveted on the ringleader's mask. It was as though it could see past the skin, past the flesh, into the very marrow of my being. Every secret, every hidden fault, every flicker of weakness was illuminated in that unblinking gaze. "Why?" I whispered, voice trembling. "Why this? Why me?" "Because guilt demands its due," he intoned, "and the carnival exists to collect the debts owed by souls like yours." A gust of cold wind swept through the tent, stirring dust motes and tattered carnival posters that fluttered like dying leaves. The ringleader stepped back into the shadows, his form dissolving into a swirl of dark mist that seemed to absorb the faint glow of the bulbs overhead. As he vanished, the cursed laughter returned, louder and more relentless than before, a cruel reminder that this was far from over. I was left alone, trembling, the weight of his judgment pressing down upon me. The carnival around me throbbed with sinister life, each creak and whisper a testament to the torment that awaited. Yet beneath the dread, a stubborn ember of resolve flickered. If the ringleader was the shadow of my guilt, then perhaps confronting him was the first step toward casting it off. But the question remained: how could I reconcile with the inescapable judgment he embodied? How could I face the truths he revealed without being consumed? The carnival's nightmare stretched endless before me, and the only certainty was that the next rotation of the Ferris wheel would bring me closer to the unbearable reckoning I had long feared. As I turned away from the fading shadows, the cursed laughter echoed once more, a maddening chorus that promised no respite. Yet in that haunting sound, I found a perverse clarity was not just the laughter of punishment, but the call to confront the darkness within. And so, with trembling steps and a heart heavy with remorse, I prepared to face whatever lay ahead. As the Ferris wheel groaned beneath the weight of its own ancient bones, I found myself once again trapped in the small cabin, the world outside reduced to flickering shadows and the sickly glow of carnival lights. The cursed laughter echoed relentlessly, a twisted symphony that gnawed at the edges of my mind. The wheel creaked ominously as it began its slow, torturous rotation. Outside the grimy window, the carnival's grotesque silhouette shifted and warped, as if breathing with a sinister life of its own. I pressed my palm against the cold glass, the surface trembling beneath my touch, and braced myself for the visions that were already clawing their way to the surface of my consciousness. The first revelation came swiftly, like a blade sliding beneath my skin. A scene unfolded in the darkness, beyond the glass of fractured memory, jagged and incomplete. I saw myself standing at a crossroads, the faces of those I had betrayed flickering in the shadows. Their eyes bore into me, accusing and unyielding. The carnival lights glimmered cruelly, casting their twisted reflections across the shattered fragments of my past. A harsh guttural laughter erupted behind me, and I spun around to confront the source. The laughing clown was there, emerging from the depths of the carnival's nightmare with a grotesque grin stretched impossibly wide. His hollow eyes bore into mine as his mocking cackle filled the cabin, each note a dagger twisting deeper into my psyche. I recoiled, but the cabin was too small, the nightmare too vast. The wheel jolted, and the cabin shuddered as it crested the apex of its arc. Outside the funhouse loomed, a warped beast of mirrors and madness. In its glassy depths, my reflection fractured into 1,000 distorted faces, each one a mask of shame and regret. They jeered silently, their twisted mouths forming words I dared not hear. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass, willing the visions to stop, but they only deepened. The laughter grew louder, a cacophony of cursed mirth that seemed to seep into my bones. The carnival's heartbeat quickened, and from the shadows at the midway's edge, the ringleader emerged. His twisted mask caught the dim light, eyes glowing faintly with an otherworldly fire. He moved with a predatory grace, his presence a chilling reminder that judgment was inescapable. He did not speak, but his gaze was a sentence damning and absolute. I felt the weight of countless sins pressing down, each one a stone in the burden I carried. The cursed laughter swelled to a maddening roar, drowning out reason and hope alike. As the wheel turned again, the revelation deepened, peeling back another layer of my moral decay. Memories collided with nightmare. Faces I had hurt merged with the carnival's twisted forms. The boundaries between reality and hallucination blurred until I could no longer tell where I ended and the torment began. I fought to hold onto the fragile threads of my sanity, clutching at the fleeting hope that redemption might yet be possible. But with each turn at the Ferris wheel, the cursed laughter grew louder, more insistent. It was a relentless tide, threatening to sweep me away into the abyss of despair. The carnival was alive with my sins, each ride a grotesque crucible of punishment. The Ferris wheel was the heart of it all, turning me inexorably toward a reckoning I could neither avoid nor escape. The night stretched on, endless and suffocating, and I realized the only way off was to face the darkness within. As the cabin creaked and swayed once more, I steeled myself for the revelations yet to come. The cursed laughter echoed in my ears, a chilling reminder that this was far from over. Somewhere in the shadows, the ringleader waited, his judgment as inevitable as the turning of the Ferris wheel itself. I closed my eyes, swallowed the bile of fear and remorse, and prepared to confront the sins that had brought me here. The carnival's nightmare was mine, and mine alone to endure. The wheel would turn again, and with it, the next piece of my shattered soul would be revealed. As I stumbled through the twisted pathways, lined with flickering lights and warped carnival tents, a figure emerged from the shadows, a pale woman with silver hair that shimmered under the jaundiced glow of the carnival's faltering bulbs. She stood beside a carousel, its horses frozen mid-gallop, their chipped paint and cracked eyes reflecting the decay that permeated this place. Her presence was a fragile island amid the chaos, and something about her calm steadiness pulled me from the depths of my spiraling despair. "You're still here," she said softly, her voice threading through the thrum of distant laughter and music like a beacon. "I don't know if I'll ever leave," I admitted, my voice hoarse, raw from the endless torment. She nodded knowingly. "Most don't, but there's a whiff, you're willing to see it." Her words, though cryptic, planted a seed in the barren soil of my hopelessness. I found myself drawn closer, compelled to understand the faint glimmer she represented. "Who are you?" I asked, needing something tangible amid the surreal nightmare. "Call me Myra," she replied, a faint smile touching her lips. "I've been where you are, caught in this endless loop, but I found a measure of peace, not freedom, perhaps, but peace enough to endure." I looked at her, searching for signs of madness or deceit, but found only sincerity. "How?" "By facing what we hide," Myra said, gesturing toward the carousel horses. "Their broken forms a metaphor for fractured souls. The carnival thrives on denial and fear. The cursed laughter feeds on your resistance. To escape, you must embrace your guilt not as a punishment, but as a truth that can be accepted and, eventually, forgiven." Her words were both a bomb and a blade, cutting through layers of shame and pain I had long buried. I wanted to believe her, but the laughter swelled suddenly, a cruel tide that threatened to sweep me away into madness. "It's hard," she acknowledged, stepping closer, her presence steadying me. "I won't lie to you. The path is brutal, but it's the only one out." For the first time, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't known in what felt like an eternity: hope. Not the naive hope of escape without consequence, but a fragile hope forged in the fires of acceptance. "You don't have to do this alone," Myra said quietly. "I'll be here as long as you need." Her offer was a lifeline, a tether to something human amidst the carnival's monstrous embrace. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Where do I start?" "Look inside," she said simply. "The rides will show you. But this time, don't turn away. Don't run. Face it." The cursed laughter faded to a distant echo, replaced by the steady beat of my own heart, pounding with tentative resolve. As Myra's figure blurred into the shadows, the carnival's horrors loomed. But now I carried something new, a glimmer of hope, fragile but undeniable. Steeling myself, I turned toward the next ride, ready to confront the sins I had long denied. The road ahead was dark and unforgiving, but for the first time, I believed I might find a way through the endless torment. And somewhere deep within, beneath the layers of fear and shame, a whisper of redemption began to stir. Step right up, he called, his voice a twisted melody of menace and invitation. The painted smile stretched grotesquely across his gaunt face like a wound that refused to heal. The flickering lights overhead sputtered in a chaotic dance, casting elongated shadows that seemed to leer and jeer alongside him. I hesitated at the threshold of the next ride, a warped marquee flickering with broken neon that spelled out words I couldn't quite grasp, the edges of the letters melting and reforming like a fevered hallucination. The air was thick with the stench of damp earth, rotting wood, and something far fouler, something like desperation and regret mixed with the metallic tang of blood long, dried but never forgotten. The carnival barker's voice slithered through the fog again, louder this time, each syllable a needle pricking at the fragile veil of my composure. "This one's for the broken, the fallen, the forgotten sins that claw at the soul. Will you face your true reflection or will you hide behind the lies you tell yourself? His laugh, a grotesque bark, echoed and twisted, a sound that seemed to scrape the inside of my skull. Inside, the ride was a labyrinth of fractured mirrors and warped glass, each pane distorting my reflection into grotesque caricatures of myself. Faces twisted by shame, fear, and regret stared back at me from every angle lies hollow. Mouths agape in silent screams, features melting into one another like a nightmare painted in shards. The cursed laughter seemed to seep from the very walls, wrapping around me like a suffocating shroud. I stumbled forward, each step heavier than the last, my breath shallow and ragged. The mirrors showed me moments I had tried desperately to forget, the betrayals hidden beneath forced smiles, the selfish choices cloaked in excuses, the opportunities to do better that I had let slip away. Each reflection was a cruel accusation, a reminder of the weight I carried and the darkness I had tried to bury. Further in, the ride transformed into a twisted carnival game gallery, the air thick with the scent of decay and the sharp bite of cold fear. Games that once promised joy now mocked me with grotesque versions of themselves. Ring tosses were the rings, slipped through fingers like smoke. Shooting galleries where every target was a distorted memory of failure, and strength tests that measured not muscle but the fragility of my resolve. The laughter grew louder here, not just from the unseen clown or the distant rides, but from the very shadows clinging to the walls. It was a laughter that knew my fears, my guilt, my every weakness. It was a chorus that sang the dirge of my soul's torment. At the heart of the gallery, a mirror larger and darker than the rest awaited. As I faced it, the reflection twisted and writhed before settling into a visage both mine and not meaner mask of all the sins I had denied, the truths I had refused to see. It was a face carved from the depths of my own moral failings, staring back with eyes that pleaded for recognition and forgiveness. I wanted to look away, to shut down the torrent of memories and accusations, but the cursed laughter held me in place. The carnival barker's voice echoed once more, distant yet omnipresent. Only those who face the shadows within can hope to step back into the light. Will you stand, or will you fall forever in the carnival's embrace? My knees buckled beneath me, the weight of my own guilt pressing down like a physical force. But beneath the crushing despair, a flicker of defiance sparked. If this carnival was a prison forged by my own sins, then perhaps the key was not to flee but to confront, to accept the darkness I had buried and seek the fragile hope that lay beyond it. The ride came to its bitter end, the mirrors melting away into shadows, and the cursed laughter dimming to a sorrowful echo. As I stepped out, the carnival barker's mocking grin lingered in my mind, a challenge and a promise. The carnival was relentless, its punishments cruel and unyielding. But within the torment, I sensed a path narrow and treacherous, but real. And I knew the journey was far from over. The next rotation of the Ferris wheel awaited, and with it, another revelation, another step deeper into the heart of my own darkness. I forced myself to move forward, the echoes of the barker's taunts fading behind me but never fully silenced. The carnival's nightmare was far from done, and the cursed laughter was not yet ready to let me go.